So, Councilor Reesner.
Would you please join me for the Lord's Prayer? Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil.
Okay, I'll invite the Boy Scout troop to come join us up here. You can come in the center and along the sides, wherever you fit. Come join us.
Stuff would be trapped.
Okay.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Would you mind if we had them stand in the middle?
Oh, come on, yeah, let's do it. Let's do it.
We're good.
Sure.
So turn
Right, actually, yeah, the first motion to amend to add that. Come on over.
I'll join you.
Michelle, if you would please.
Three, two, one. Thanks, guys.
Good work. Thanks, guys. Thank you, gentlemen.
A special thank you to the Boy Scout Troop 444. We'll hear from them in a little bit. I'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
Councilmember Reesner.
Here.
Councilmember Snee.
Present.
Councilmember Thacker.
Here.
Councilmember Hayes.
Here.
Councilmember Herniman.
Here.
Councilmember Kaler.
Here.
And Councilmember Jones.
Here.
Let the record show that all 7 members of council are present.
We have a petition tonight, petition number 2024-04, vacating an alley running north-south between Lot 62, George Feege's addition on the west, and Lot number 1 of the appraiser's replat of lots 63-67 of George Feege's addition, formerly Lot number 63 of George Feege's addition, on the east in the First Ward of the City of Tiffin, Ohio.
Petition number 2024-4 will be assigned to the Street, Sidewalks, and Sewers Committee. Are there any additions, subtractions, deletions to the minutes from the last regular and committee of the whole meeting? Minutes. Seeing none, the minutes will stand approved as presented. We're now under committee reports. Finance Committee, Councilmember Reesner.
No report, Madam President.
Law and Community Planning, Councilmember Kaler.
No report, Madam President.
Materials and Equipment, Councilmember Jones.
No report, Madam President.
Personnel and Labor Relations, Councilmember Hayes.
No report, Madam President.
Recreation and Public Property, Councilmember Snee.
No report at this time, Madam President.
There is no report for Streets, Sidewalks, and Sewers. Economic Development and Downtown Planning, Councilmember Horniman.
No report, Madam President.
Thank you. Does anybody see the need to schedule a committee of the whole? Okay. We are now under reports of the officers. His Honor, Mayor Lee Wilkinson.
Thank you, Madam President. First, I want to congratulate the Tiffin Police and Fire Departments and a great group of volunteers for helping them successfully pull off a safety city a couple of weeks ago at the end of September. That was so nice. I'm also excited to announce that the DARE program is back. So at the Tiffin Police Department, they will primarily be working with the 5th and 6th graders. So we're excited about that. Coming up on your calendars, mark your calendars for October 23rd, 4 o'clock. That's the new dedication of the Ella Street Bridge in memory of Rich Fote. The chamber will be helping us out organize that, so that'll be so nice. And next we have some guests with us. So the Boy Scouts who led the Pledge of Allegiance, we have a couple leaders among them, and one of those is Brooke Edwards, who's going to come up and give us a little update on the Boy Scouts.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Council, for welcoming us tonight. We sure appreciate you allowing us to be here and lead the pledge for you. My name is Brooke Edwards, and I am the district chairman for the BSA in this area over Hancock and Seneca counties. I'm happy to say I'm a resident right here in Tiffin and absolutely love this community. It moved here about 4 years ago, and it's been fantastic. But what I want to talk to you today about is our scouting program. We have 4 units in the immediate area of Tiffin, 2 packs, 2 troops. And they are engaged in community service, Eagle projects, all kinds of activities here in the community. And we rely on the support of not only you as council members and city administration, but also on the citizens of the community to help support our program. You know, we want to give back to the community, and we've been working on doing that. We have recently been engaged with the local park district in the county level and done some assistance to them. We have Eagle projects that have been done in the community. Some of you may be familiar with a few years ago, we had the flagpoles at the grandstand at the fairgrounds put up. That was an Eagle project. Other Eagle projects in the community. But we're really about trying to highlight that service component. The scouts you see here tonight are with St. Joe's Troop 444. This is one of the older units in scouting in Ohio and is chartered at St. Joe's. We have a pack at St. Mary's, pack 445. We have a pack at the Elks, and then we have Troop 499, which is at the Clinton Volunteer Fire Department. So scouting is alive and well, and we want to be in the community and more active, and that's one of the things we're working to do. The young men you see here tonight are working on their Citizenship and Community Merit Badge, and that's why they came to attend a council meeting to learn more about what you do and see local government in operation. So as some of you I'm sure know, scouting is trying to build leaders of tomorrow. Not just leadership, but good citizenship. And part of that is service. So every flea market, we have scouts out at the fairgrounds helping with cleanup and trash. We have engaged in multiple other activities. We helped with the Stuff the Bus campaign through our partners at United Way. And we're consistently trying to enhance what we do. I will also tell you there are a couple of things I would address specifically to you in the community. We are always in need of volunteers. Now, I know that is a common thing for nonprofit organizations these days, but I really want to stress we cannot do what we do without volunteers, and the commitment could be anywhere from a couple of hours to being more heavily involved, like I am, or our Scoutmaster, Kyle Elkert, is, but there are all kinds of variations, and we have a place for everybody. We are working on building new units and growing scouting here in the community, and I'm very positive that we can do that. So I know some of you are familiar with popcorn sales, things like that, but we also do our Friends of Scouting campaign. All of this money comes back to the scouting program to try and serve the youth like those you see before you. So with that, I would just introduce a couple of people. First, this is Rochelle Manley. She is our district executive, part of the Key 3 leadership team for the district, and is a professional scouter. We have, as I mentioned, Kyle Elkert, who is our Scoutmaster. And we have John Pryor, who is one of our assistant Scoutmasters. And let's see. Andy, sorry, who is also one of our assistant scoutmasters. You were hiding on me there. But it's through the time that individuals like you see before you give that really make this possible and give our youth the chance to be those leaders and have the impact. So I would ask that if there's anything we can do in service to the community, please let us know. We will. I can't promise we can be at everything, but we will certainly try and help where we can. And we have 4 units in this area that can help you. What's that? Yes. And with some of the changes in scouting, we are also in the process of putting together a girls' troop here in the Tiffin area. That is just now in the process and in the works, but we hope that by, what are our prospects right now? I think early next year, we were hoping to have enough girls to start that troop. So, and both of our packs here are family packs, so boys and girls. So we're trying to grow the opportunity, and we're starting to work on expanding the exploring opportunities, looking at places that might be interested in bringing on more of the career type opportunities, and that's for youth up to the age of 20. So all things that I think are pretty exciting and going on here in the community. Any questions?
Yes, John.
Yes, sir.
What is the difference between a pack and a troop?
It's the age. The pack is ages 5 through 11, and the troop is then the above 11 years old to 18. Because at the age of 18, they become an adult, they can no longer advance. So if they're in exploring, venturing, that goes up a little higher, but that's basically the distinction. And it changes how you operate the unit, the amount of involved leaders you have. We like to say at the Boy Scouts, we are training them to lead, so the unit is boy-led. While we have a scoutmaster, they're there in a role as an advisor and to guide. But when events are planned, what merit badges they're working on, the boys meet and they make decisions with input from leadership. At the pack level, it is a cub master and then den leaders, and they operate a more structured program that starts building the principles. As an example, Citizenship, we start that with our Lions at age 5, and we slowly build it up until they have more requirements as they get to their Webelos rank at the end of, an arrow of light at the end of their cub experience. Other questions?
Councilmember Hayes.
You mentioned Lions age 5. Is that the first kind of age in?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. That was something that was brought on about 3-4 years ago and added in to try and engage students who were new into school, because we were seeing there were some kindergartners who were like, well, my brother, my sister is going off to do this. I don't get to. I'm in school too. Why can't I? And our organization recognized that and brought that on board.
Thank you.
Councilmember Horniman.
About how many kids do you guys have involved between like the 4, the packs and the troops that are?
We have in 2023, 101 Cub Scouts in the county, and then 73 Scouts.
Thank you.
And I can say the largest contingent of those is right here in Tiffin.
Very cool. Well, I just want to say thank you to all the scouts and the leaders for your service to our community and everything that you do that probably, for the most part, goes unnoticed. When you're volunteering to do things in the community, sometimes those things don't get noticed, but just rest assured that it is appreciated. It really is.
And Mr. Mayor, I have a handout if the members of council would like. It gives just a little bit more information on scouting in our area. so you can see, we call it an impact report, and I just thought I'd like to share that with council so you can learn a little bit more about us. So
Thank you very much.
thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dick.
Okay, while we're still under the mayor's report here, I would also like to introduce Jim and Kathy Oliver. They're the originators of Max's Miles. Max's Miles held their event last Saturday, which I was proud to be a part of that. And it was a well-attended event, and we're just going to learn a little bit more about Max's Miles right now.
Sure. Thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to come speak to you today. I'm Max's mom, and Jim is Max's dad. We lost him in 2016. He died by suicide. I gotta tell you, he was unbiased because I'm his mom. He was the greatest kid. He volunteered at our church where we're talking about volunteerism. He played in our worship band every Sunday. He helped my mom and dad with cleaning of the church. He learned lots of skills in schools, but he struggled with anxiety and depression. And for whatever reason, on July 30th of 16, it was too much, and that was the end for him. When he left us a note, he said, please take my money and make a difference for people like me who struggle. So we took that seriously, and we didn't know what to do at first, really, but we approached the Mental Health and Recovery Services Board, and we talked to Mircha, and he was very helpful, and we created Max's Miles. And the first year, we probably had about 70 people. This last one was our 7th, and I believe we had over 400 people. And really the intention of it is to just connect people who are struggling or somebody who knows who's struggling with resources. And so we have lots of providers there, Rigel, Firelands, too many to name. But we just want to bring awareness and connect people with resources, because if we could change that for somebody, that's our hope, right?
And we try to keep that day, you know, the topic is a very somber topic, but we try to make sure that day is not a somber day. So we have bouncy houses for kids, we have a dog walk, we try to keep it fun. Of course, people come up on the stage and share their stories, you know, family members they've lost or what they've gone through personally. But we really just try to reach out to folks. And so I think we have. I think we've had a lot of folks tell us that this event has really had an impact on them. So that's all we want to do. If we can help one or two people, I mean, that's worth it. We just want to make sure nobody goes through what we've had to go through. So Max, like she said, Max was 19 when he left us, and you know, you hear it all the time that we didn't see it coming, and you know, and as his dad, I have the coulda, woulda, shoulda stuff that I should have known. But you know, I mean, he had a girlfriend, he had a job, he just graduated high school, everything was going great, and we just, you know, it blindsided us, and we just want to make sure it doesn't happen to anybody else. So we have to do this every year. We will make sure that we invite each one of you guys personally. It's a great event. We'd love to see anybody there, and just come and enjoy the day with us. So.
Yep. And I will say, we've talked to a lot of folks over the years that have experienced the same situation as we have, and it's tough for families, right? So if you could picture in this place a beautiful tapestry of the city of Tiffin and its history, and then just a big gaping hole in it, that's what happens to your family. It's just unexpected and irreparable. But you want to, as Jim said, celebrate the memories of those people that you've lost. So we have a memory board, and people, as Jim said, tell stories. And so I'll tell you a quick story about Max. He loved to play practical jokes, particularly on me. And his favorite practical joke was taping the sprayer on the kitchen sink, so when I turned on the faucet, I would get all wet. So that was a little bit about Max Oliver. So thanks for letting us come. Do you have any questions for us?
Well, I just want to say I so appreciate you willing to stand up and share. And this event is bigger, I'm sure, than you have ever imagined. There's also a Max Miles event in Fremont as well. So keeps you busy. And when I was there on Saturday, all of the volunteers and everyone who pitched in to set up and get all of that stuff underway to make it a meaningful event, that's really special.
It's a good day. And it's, for whatever reason, you know, it's always been sunny and 70 on these days. So,
Yeah.
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 So it always works out.
We're grateful to the parks. Hedges is a beautiful place to have it, and just all the partners that work with
Fire
us.
department comes, they bring, so the kids can take a look inside of the fire trucks and bouncy houses, and the DJ down the street here, he comes and he donates his time for free, and yeah, it's just a good day.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
If you don't mind, I would like to get a picture.
Sure.
Sure.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Good job, guys.
Okay, and while we're still in the mayor's report, I'd like to also introduce Bryant McAfee, hope I said your name correctly, from Omni Fiber to give us an update on how things are going throughout the city.
Thank you, Mayor, Madam President, members of the council. Thank you so much for letting me give a little presentation tonight. I wanted to provide you with an update on our progress of our fiber broadband build in your city. I believe Nick has a slideshow. He's going to pull that up for you really quick, and I'll do my best to keep this rather brief. So while Nick is preparing that, I wanted to provide you with, I know that it's been 2 years that we've been in this project so far, and quite honestly, Tiffin has been one of the more challenging cities for us, not because of city relationship or Omni Fiber or what we're doing. It has to do really with our ability to gain access to telephone poles, and the utility provider is not something that is easy to deal with for your market, and that's been statewide. Every broadband provider has the same issue where poles are just not being approved fast enough because they are resource constrained with manpower to go out and survey each and every utility pole. So what I'd like to do is let me just give you a little brief summary again to bring you up to speed of who we are and what we're doing. So Omni Fiber is investing more than $10 million in the city of Tiffin, and we're deploying a world-class broadband network that will provide faster speed, better reliability, and oftentimes much better pricing than your incumbent providers that you have in the city. Our investment is 100% on us. It does not require state, local, or federal funding in any way. Next slide. So this just gives you a little view, and Nick will share this with you, this presentation with you. You know, in the time that we started Tiffin, we've actually been able to we are currently 100% built in 15 cities throughout Ohio, and 11 are partially completed, meaning they're at some stage where some portions of the city are able to subscribe to Omni Fiber services, and that's both for residential and small medium business. Construction is also in progress, meaning that we're still in the progress of building, but we haven't opened them for sale as of yet in 14 other Ohio communities, as well as 7 Pennsylvania communities. So you can see over the last 2 years where when we first started our conversations, I think we maybe had Clyde and Shelby and you guys, we've rapidly grown throughout the state. Next slide. So what makes fiber so special? First of all, speed. Speed's the biggest thing. You can get 10 gigabits per second with today's technology both ways, meaning symmetrical. Right now with other providers, you only get speed fast coming into the house, but you don't get speed fast going out of the house. And that's just the nature of the technology that you utilize via phone line and coaxial cable. You just can't do what fiber can do. And it's also the reliability. Think of an electrical plant where you got electric currency going down the street. Every so often that has to be boosted because it's a metal product and that metal product bleeds off some of the energy or electricity. And with fiber, you don't have that because it's a strand of glass. And that strand of glass has no connection points in it except from the start to where it ends at the house. And that beam of light can travel at the speed of light. So you don't have any of the moving pieces, so to speak, in fiber that you do in some of the other networks. Next slide. Why us? Well, one, we're local to Ohio. We're in Mason, Ohio, and our call center is in Milford, Ohio. So when your residents call, they're going to get somebody local in the state, and they're also going to be able to get somebody local for technical service and customer support locally. We bring jobs to the market as well. We're not just somebody that say we've got local people here that are in your market so that customers aren't having to wait a long time to have their service repaired or fixed. There's no hidden fees. Pricing is very streamlined. We try not to add anything extra. We know the pain points as consumers ourselves of what it's like to get your cell phone bill and you look at it and it's hard to understand. Your water bill, your gas bill, everything. There's always extra line item surcharges that make it difficult to understand the bill, and we're very simplistic in pricing. Next slide. I already mentioned speed, but this is just an example so you can kind of know where we win. 100% fiber, speed upload, Wi-Fi is included with us. There's no extra charges. Installation's always free, and our pricing oftentimes saves you a great deal of money versus what you would pay for the other providers. Next slide. Construction. This is the pain point of all of it. We always said construction is messy. Doesn't matter what kind of project you're doing, whether it's a water project, gas project, whatever. And you guys have done a lot of those. But, construction, we do our best to make sure we remediate and take care of things so that we do have a ticketing system online. We urge residents, if there is a concern, to go to the construction page on our website. There's a way that they can link it, and we respond within 24 hours. Next slide. This is an example of your city. I drew a map this morning just to give you an idea of what your city currently looks like. Everything that you see circled in purple and all of these little grid areas are called fiber distribution hubs. Some of them have anywhere from 250 to 300 locations, meaning homes and businesses, up to 500 or 600. And it just really depends on how close homes are together and how dense that area is. The ones in purple, you can see almost everything on the west side of the river is complete. The green one at the top should be turned on and active open for sale by the end of this week. So that means everything on the west will be done. Now we move to the east side of the river, and the yellow one at the bottom, permitting is already in place, and the others are being staged to go through your engineering and permitting department now. So you'll see the chart on the side. This only lists the ones on the east side of the river, and these should all be completed by the end of March. To date, we have already put out 315,000 feet of fiber. So that's only on the west side, so we're probably going to do more than that on the east side. And if you calculate that in mileage, that's a lot of miles. Probably the hardest part is because we haven't had access to poles as readily as we would love. We do have a little bit of disparity in our ratio in that typically we like to see a city on average 55% aerial, 45% underground at a max, but yours is flip-flopped. Yours is only 39% aerial, and the majority of what's been done so far has been underground. And I know that's been part of the pain point because we've had to do much more underground because of lack of poles. When you look at services available or locations that can subscribe today, we've got 3,900 that are available for subscriptions now. You've got a gap of about 940, and that variance is not that we can't serve them. It's as you look at your community, you're going to have diverse housing. You're going to have apartment complexes. You might have homeowners associations, condo associations. All of those require private easement approval for us to be able to be on their property. So those things we continually work through, work with the property owners and the property associations to be able to gain access to those, and then we can build out to those. So if you happen to live in one of those areas, that's why we're currently not serving you, is because we may need to still go through that process of gaining approval. Next slide. This is just an example for you to have some visual aids of what your residents are getting in their mailboxes. And these are the things that show the pricing for Tiffin, as well as that we also have business services. And it also, this will provide you with the links for how to get in touch with us. Do you have any questions? Yes, sir.
So the price that the customer pays, that includes the maintenance of the line? So if there's a problem to their home,
Yes,
it's
sir.
not an extra fee for them, it's just, it is one fee?
That's correct. There's never a maintenance fee.
I have a question, actually,
Madam
regarding aerial versus underground. Do you see issues in other communities that you work with that you aren't reaching that same 55-45? Because I remember your presentation a couple years ago, and I noticed in our city, and you brought it up again, that you've had to go more underground here.
Well, you have to understand, there's a couple different energy providers in the state of Ohio. AEP is one, First Energy is another, and it just depends on what serves particular cities. I would say that First Energy has been a little bit more easy to work with. As we move to the southwest of Ohio, we have then AES, which is a completely different energy provider. And though the poles in those areas seem to be in better condition. So it really depends on where you are and who the provider is. AEP markets, oftentimes we've found that the poles have not been in as great a condition, and it takes them a little longer to make them ready for us to be able to attach to.
Okay, I was curious about that. Councilmember Reesner.
I know you have mailing as part of your marketing, and then there's door-to-door as part of your marketing also. And some of my
Yes.
neighbors have talked to me about the amount of times their door's been knocked.
Okay.
What's the amount of times you would knock?
I can't really speak to that as far as what that cadence would be, but it probably should be no more than once a quarter.
Councilmember Horniman.
It's not really a question. I would just ask, prioritize consideration for property owners and such. I've had multiple complaints. It's not you guys, it's your subcontractors.
Yes.
It's just one of those where pretty please with sugar on top, make it very clear to any subcontractors that being considerate to our residents and their property and such and everything.
Absolutely. We can appreciate that. And over the last year, we've made much more of an effort to hire Omni Fiber supervisors. You have to remember 2 years ago, I was employee number 5. We are now 220 employees that are Omni Fiber employees throughout the state of Ohio, and that has allowed us to be able to add more field operations supervisors and people that are in market.
Yes, Nick.
Yeah, thank you. And Councilman, Member Horniman, to your point, if you or any other council members have any concerns, feel free to route those through my office. I make contact with Bryant. I make contact with some of the other folks at Omni. Typically, we're able to get issues resolved in a pretty quick matter. I appreciate they've had, your folks have been pretty easy for me to get in touch with. And typically, it's an email or a phone call away, and we can get something usually taken care of within about, hopefully no more than a week, but shortly thereafter. So feel free to use my office as a go-between.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, thank you very much. That was very good. Well, I have one more item on my mayor's report I just want to mention and this is the first thing when I was campaigning, people asked me, this is the thing that was most foremost in everyone's mind is, when is trick or treat? So Sunday, October 27th from 5 to 7 p.m. So if you start at 5 p.m., that should be enough light out there for the youngsters whose parents don't want them to be out walking the neighborhoods in the dark. And as it gets closer to 6 and 7 p.m., then the older youngsters who are wanting to, actually get out in the dark and see the lit up Halloween decorations, they'll be able to enjoy that too. So Sunday, October 27th, from 5 to 7 p.m. is trick or treat. And that concludes my report, Madam President.
Thank you, Mayor. Clerk of Council Ann Forrest.
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to report that, excuse me, regarding the LA vacation petition under ordinance 2024-66, we have received the fees that are required for the third reading.
Thank you.
That concludes my report.
Director of Finance Kathy Kaufman.
Thank you, Madam President. I just wanted to point out the legislation that we have tonight. We have several things that we're going to be voting on. Just a reminder that there's 3 of them up for third readings, ordinance 2472, 73, and 76. We've had past discussions about these, but 72 is in regards to changes to the ambulance rates. 73 is we're making some changes to our credit card policy, our overall company limit, police department limit. And then 76, there was an insurance reimbursement that went to the street department. There was a pole that was hit and had to be replaced out of the current budget funds. So they are asking that this insurance reimbursement be put back into their budget because that was not a planned expense. So they had to pay it out of their budget. So this would be replacing those funds. And then ordinance 2481, 82, 83, 84, and 85, we're asking for suspension for these. These are things that I've picked up on because I'm starting to look at the budget more closely, going through things and looking at getting ready for year end. And ordinance 2481, I discovered that there was an employee that was budgeted in the wrong department. So we need to make sure that we budget funds for that person's wages for the rest of the year into the correct department. We've been paying it correctly. It just was not budgeted correctly. 82 involves the police department where we had a couple of employees who changed their insurance coverage. They went to more costly coverages. I usually don't come to you right away with these because sometimes they can work themselves out. If you have another employee that either drops coverages or goes to something lesser, sometimes you don't always need to go back and put more funds in. But at this point, I realize that no changes have been made, so we're going to need to put more money in the budget for that to make sure we have enough for police insurance for the rest of the year. And then 2483, that is for the beautification funds that you approved to be moved into the budget for the Tiffin Municipal Arts Commission Wing Project. 2484, that is for the Parks Department out at Oakley Park. They need some security cameras and some sound equipment for the new ice rink. And 2485, we had another insurance check that we need to put back into the budget. This was for a lightning strike out at the Water Pollution Control Center. They would like to do some rehab work to the roof on their maintenance building.
Thank you so much. Director of Law, Zachary Fowler.
Yeah, thank you, Madam President. I do have a few things. One thing I just wanted to kind of follow up on that I think I talked about before was one of the pieces of legislation we got out of the state earlier this year was the requirement that AEDs be placed in certain places, including at our parks where there's playing fields or a swimming pool. So the date on that we didn't have back then. Its effective date is October 24th. I'll just let you know, we're aware of it at the park level. We don't really have any great direction yet. The Ohio Department of Health was to develop a model plan. That's not yet finalized. Once that is finalized, then that's something that can be adopted by the park department. But the big question mark really is, where did the AEDs go? So I'll just use Hedges as an example. We have multiple ball fields. We have a swimming pool. We have a basketball court, tennis court. Do we need AEDs at each and every location? Does it need to just be in several locations? Those are the unknowns we don't know yet. Something that I advise to the administration is that the way the state law reads, my interpretation is that this matter essentially falls to our Park and Rec Board. And so my recommendation is that that Park and Rec Board should convene, talk about it, come up with a plan for those AEDs. So I just wanted to make you aware because ultimately, the city's going to be responsible to make sure that we have purchased AEDs and put those in the appropriate locations. The big question is where, and we just don't have an answer yet. The other thing that should be on your radar is Thrive has obtained a dual license. So they have medical marijuana, but they are also now licensed for recreational use, cannabis. And so something that is under this new set of statutes is that once they get that dual license, you have 120 days from the time when they get that license that if council didn't want them to have that dual license, you would have to take action, pass the ordinance to block that. If you don't, that's your time frame. And then they continue on. So I just want to put that on your radar. Also, as they start to then sell, there's this 10% excise tax. On that tax, 36% will be carved out and returned back to the city. What we don't know, what I'm seeing multiple law directors ask a question on is what do we do with this money? The statute just says it's used for approved purposes, and that's it. Doesn't say who's making the decision as to what's an approved purpose. So we're waiting on some answers from the state as far as maybe an interpretation of is it what council passes and decides you want to use the money for. Their program, for example, is being funded by the opioid settlement. Does the money from the excise tax on the sale of marijuana go towards there? There's different potential ways to use it. We just don't know if the city gets to decide it or if that comes from somewhere else. Last thing I have for you all is now that we've passed this annexation, something that is kind of the final step that doesn't always get done is there's a revised code that basically says the city's boundary needs to match up with the township boundary. And in order to do that, there's a petition that essentially the city would send to the county commissioners asking them to match their township boundaries, in this case Clinton Township, Hopewell Township, with that of the city, especially following our latest annexation. We only have done it once. We did it way back in 2005. In 2005, they did it for every annexation up to then, so from late 1800s, early 1900s, all the way up to 2005. They brought the city boundaries up to, match the township boundaries. So we got to go from then up to current is what we'll end up asking for. So I'm just hammering out a few details with the county as far as what they want to see on the petition. Hopefully I have that for next round. I would just ask you guys then we'll essentially pass the similar ordinance as the 2005, which would be all the annexations from like 2006 to current to bring our boundary and Clinton and Hopewell Township boundaries all in the same place. Really the whole point is that it basically clears it up. Anyone that was in, say, Hopewell Township that got annexed into the city, they actually still get a vote in both township and city until that happens. Most of these are industrial and commercial development projects, so it's not really affecting voters, but that's the idea. That's part of the reason why we get it done. But it's just that last piece. We changed the city boundary, but we got to still ask the county to change the township. So I don't know if anyone has any questions on those things, but those are the items that'll be coming up.
Okay. Thank you, Law Director. We are now under written communications.
Thank you. We have Finance Director's request for legislation number F24-49 to amend the 2024 Budget Ordinance 23-94 to appropriate funds into the street budget.
This has been prepared for tonight's meeting as ordinance 24-81.
Finance Director's request for legislation number F24-50 to amend the 2024 Budget Ordinance 23-94 to appropriate funds into the police budget.
This has been prepared for tonight's meeting as ordinance 24-82.
Finance Director's request for legislation number F24-51 to amend the 2024 Budget Ordinance 23-94 to appropriate funds into the general administration budget.
This has been prepared for tonight's meeting as ordinance 24-83.
Finance Director's budget request for legislation number F24-52 to amend the 2024 Budget Ordinance 23-94 to appropriate funds into the park capital budget.
This has been prepared for tonight's meeting as ordinance 24-84.
Finance Director's request for legislation number F24-53 to amend the 2024 Budget Ordinance 23-94 to appropriate funds into the WPCC budget.
This has been prepared for tonight's meeting as ordinance 24-85.
And from the Ohio Division of Liquor Control, we have a notice of a new permit for Danop Limited, 1804 West Market Street.
This will be assigned to the Street, Sidewalks, and Sewers Committee.
And that concludes the written communications.
Thank you. We are now under oral communications. Anyone wishing to address council may step up to the podium, sign in, and direct your questions to myself. Okay. Seeing none, we are now under motions. Councilmember Hayes?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion to add an emergency clause to ordinance 2024-78.
Okay, there's a motion on the table. Is there a second? Councilmember Jones?
I second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to add an emergency to ordinance 24-78. Is there any discussion? Councilmember Hayes.
Yeah, the emergency clause was originally requested by the fire chief at the time. This is related to, the ordinance is related to some of the changes to the firefighters' civil service entrance and promotion requirements. The emergency is just to get, once it's passed, to get some of these changes in place as soon as possible.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passes 7-0. Any other motions for this evening? Councilmember Jones?
Yes, I'd like to motion the ordinance, the tabled legislation or ordinance 2024-66 be approved for the third and final reading. No, or read again.
Moved off the table.
Okay, moved off the table.
Great.
We'll
Okay.
get there.
Okay, is there a second? Councilmember Horniman?
I'll second that motion, Madam President.
Okay, is there any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 7-0. Any other motions this evening? Okay, seeing none, we are now under resolutions and ordinances.
Resolution number 2024-40, introduced by John Hayes, a resolution approving mayor's reappointment of Cade Rowe to serve a term on the Thomas Connor Memorial Commission from January 1st, 2023 through December 31st, 2027.
This is the first reading of Resolution 2024-40. Councilmember Hayes.
Yeah, like motion for passage of resolution 2024-40.
There's a motion. Is there a second? Councilmember Reeser?
I'll second the motion, Madam President.
Is there any further discussion? Councilmember Hayes.
Yeah, just a comment on the partisanship requirement for the committee. I personally do find that independent moniker is legitimate, especially in local politics, and I see no problem with the committee having a makeup of, it'll be 3 Republicans, 1 independent, and 1 Democrat. I also personally know Jose, the independent in this case, and I think the independent kind of claim from him is legitimate from what I know of him. So that's my reasoning for passage, and yeah, that's it.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? Yes, Councilor Herniman.
Thank you, Madam President. Yeah, I understand, that having both sides and having, showing, having every side on the commission being represented and such, that's an important thing. And speaking on kind of what Councilmember Hayes was talking about, I think when it comes to local issues and politics where we're talking about, that things in this area where, it doesn't, those political affiliations are not so divided in like a local situation and such, I believe.
Okay. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
Councilmember Reesner.
Yes.
Snee.
Yes.
Thacker.
No.
Hayes.
Yes.
Herniman.
Yes.
Kaler.
Yes.
And Jones.
No.
Okay, this resolution passes with a vote of 4-3. Did I miss?
5-2.
2. I'm sorry. Oh, oops. Thank you. Okay.
Ordinance number 2024-72, introduced by Kevin Reesner, an ordinance to amend section 143.05 of the codified ordinances.
Okay, this is the third reading of ordinance 2024-72. Councilor Reesner.
Thank you, Madam President. I move for passage of ordinance 2024-72.
We have a motion. Is there a second? Councilmember Snee?
I second that motion.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Councilor Reesner?
Just a point of information. This is revisions to the Tiffin codified ordinances 143.05, the rates for the ambulance.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? Yes, Councilor Reesner.
Just to kind of highlight some of the things that I picked out of this ordinance that changes and such and everything, like specialty care transports for the fire department would be at the pricing would be at $1,000. Private healthcare facilities, when they call in the fire department to do a lift assist and such, one of the things that was added, it would be a $150 fee to be on there. And I think the most important thing on here is that there is a financial hardship policy and procedure that's in place. So if people do receive ambulance services from the fire and rescue department, that there is a way to work through like financial issues and such.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? I will ask the clerk to call the roll.
Councilmember Reesner.
Yes.
Snee.
Yes.
Thacker.
Yes.
Hayes.
Yes.
Herniman.
Yes.
Kaler.
Yes.
And Jones.
Yes.
This ordinance passes with a vote of 7-0.
Ordinance number 2024-73, introduced by Kevin Reesner, an ordinance to amend section 135.14 of the codified ordinances.
This is the third reading of ordinance 24-73. Councilor Reesner.
Thank you, Madam President. I move for passage of ordinance 2024-73.
Okay, there's a motion on the table. Is there a second? Councilor Hayes?
I'll second that motion.
There's a motion, a second. Is there any discussion? Councilor Reesner.
What this is a point of information here. What this is for the credit card policy. It grows certain departments, police department, and some others to accommodate the spending that goes on. And this brings us into kind of a newer way of, accounts for growing expenses, inflation and such.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? I will ask the clerk to call the roll. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, Law Director.
Yeah, just a reminder, there was a kind of a fair amount of changes. Some at my request. One was to change the compliance officer. It would no longer be the law director, it would be the assistant director of finance. Again, that would allow then, of course, that my department could have a credit card, which would ease hotels, et cetera, those kind of transactions. But yeah, your cap will go up to 100,000. substantially more than what you have now, giving police and fire, or police 15,000 and fire 10,000. But yeah, it does go towards those rising costs, but if that helps at all, again, we looked at like Norwalk, who has had a much larger credit card balance than what we've had in the past, so we know it works elsewhere.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Yes, Councilor Hardeman.
Thank you, Madam President. I know that the one concern when we're talking about this in committee and such and everything was the police chief was when they would have multiple training situations and such and everything, when they were doing that with the travel and the prices of like hotel rooms and the different travel and having different people and different cards out. And this does a lot to solve that issue.
Okay. Any further discussion? I'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
Councilmember Reesner.
Yes.
Snee.
Yes.
Thacker.
Yes.
Hayes.
Yes.
Herniman.
Yes.
Kaler.
Yes.
And Jones.
Yes.
Ordinance 24-73 passes with a vote of 7-0.
Ordinance number 2024-76, introduced by Kevin Reesner, an ordinance amending the 2024 budget ordinance 23-94 to appropriate funds into the street budget.
This is the third reading of ordinance 24-76. Councilmember Reesner.
Thank you, Madam President. I move for passage of ordinance 2024-76.
Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second? Yes, Councilmember Jones.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Councilmember Reesner.
This is the point of information here. This is for an insurance reimbursement to get the money used back into the budget for a struck pole.
Okay. Any further discussion? I'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
Councilmember Reesner.
Yes.
Snee.
Yes.
Thacker.
Yes.
Hayes.
Yes.
Herniman.
Yes.
Kaler.
Yes.
And Jones.
Yes.
Ordinance 2024-76 passes with a vote of 7-0.
Ordinance number 2024-77, introduced by Cheyenne Thacker, an ordinance authorizing and directing the city administrator to prepare plans and specifications, advertise for and receive bids, recommend and execute a contract for the 2025 street paving program, and declaring an emergency.
This is the second reading of ordinance 2024-77.
Amended ordinance number 2024-78, introduced by John Hayes, an ordinance to amend the firefighters' civil service entrance and promotion requirements by amending sections 143.02 and 143.03 and chapter 149 of the codified ordinances and declaring an emergency.
This is the second reading of ordinance 2024-78. Councilmember Hayes.
You'd like the motion for immediate passage of ordinance 2024-78, suspending council's three reading rule.
Okay, there's a motion on the table. Is there a second? Yes, Councilmember Snee.
I second that motion, Madam President.
Any further discussion? Councilmember Hayes.
Yeah, a little more detail on the changes proposed. Two of the main ones involve the entrance eligibility list and the entrance examination for hiring into the fire department. Also, a couple of the other changes, they're going to reduce the minimum job advertising from 30 days to 14 days, and then they'll be accepting applications year-round. So if there is an opening, they might already have a list of people to contact. I'd like to thank Fire Chief Chappell for his work on this. This was approved. These changes were approved by the fire department, the city administration, law director, the firefighter union, police chief, and the Civil Service Commission.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
On the suspension, Councilmember Reesner.
Yes.
Snee.
Yes.
Thacker.
Yes.
Hayes.
Yes.
Herniman.
Yes.
Kaler.
Yes.
And Jones.
Yes.
The suspension passes with a vote of 7-0. I will now ask the clerk to call the roll on the emergency.
Councilmember Reesner.
Yes.
Snee.
Yes.
Thacker.
Yes.
Hayes.
Yes.
Herniman.
Yes.
Kaler.
Yes.
And Jones.
Yes.
The emergency passes with a vote of 7-0. I'll now ask the clerk to call the roll on the passage.
This did not have an emergency.
We amended it to add an emergency.
Oh, I'm sorry, I did. Yes, I'm sorry. Okay, so soon, how soon I forgot. Okay. Councilmember Reesner.
Yes.
Snee.
Yes.
Thacker,
Yes.
Hayes,
Yes.
Herniman,
Yes.
Kaler,
Yes.
and Jones.
Yes.
Ordinance 2024-78 passes with a vote of 7-0.
Okay. Ordinance number 2024-81, introduced by Kevin Reesner, an ordinance amending the 2024 budget ordinance 23-94 to appropriate funds into the street maintenance budget.
Councilmember Reese, I'm sorry, this is the first reading of ordinance 24-81. Councilmember Reesner.
Thank you, Madam President. I move for immediate passage of ordinance 2024-81, suspending City Council's reading rule.
Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second? Councilmember Hayes?
I'll second that motion.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Councilmember Reesner.
Just a point of information, this fixes the budget shortage in the street department regarding wages.
Okay. Any further discussion? I'll ask the clerk to call the roll on the suspension.
Councilmember Reesner.
Yes.
Snee,
Yes.
Thacker,
Yes.
Hayes,
Yes.
Herniman,
Yes.
Kaler,
Yes.
and Jones.
Yes.
The suspension passes with a vote of 7-0. I'll now ask the clerk to call the roll on the passage of this ordinance.
Councilmember Reesner,
Yes.
Snee,
Yes.
Thacker,
Yes.
Hayes,
Yes.
Herniman,
Yes.
Kaler,
Yes.
and Jones.
Yes.
This ordinance passes with a vote of 7-0.
Ordinance number 2024-82, introduced by Kevin Reesner, an ordinance amending the 2024 budget ordinance 23-94 to appropriate funds into the police budget.
This is the first reading of ordinance 24-82. Councilmember Reesner.
Thank you, Madam President. I move for immediate passage of ordinance 2024-82, suspending City Council's reading rule.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor. Is there a second? Councilmember Jones.
I second that motion, Madam President.
Is there any discussion? Councilmember Reesner.
This is a point of information. This is changes in the police department health insurance. There were some increases made, and this covers that.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion? I will ask the clerk to call the roll on the suspension.
Councilmember Reesner.
Yes.
Snee,
Yes.
Thacker,
Yes.
Hayes,
Yes.
Herniman,
Yes.
Kaler,
Yes.
and Jones.
Yes.
The suspension passes with a vote of 7-0. I'll ask the clerk to call the roll on the passage.
Councilmember Reesner.
Yes.
Snee,
Yes.
Thacker,
Yes.
Hayes,
Yes.
Herniman,
Yes.
Kaler,
Yes.
and Jones.
Yes.
This ordinance passes with a vote of 7-0.
Ordinance number 2024-83, introduced by Kevin Reesner, an ordinance amending the 2024 budget ordinance 23-94 to appropriate funds into the general administration budget.
This is the first reading of ordinance 24-83. Councilmember Reesner.
Thank you, Madam President. I move for immediate passage of ordinance 2024-83, suspending City Council's reading rule.
Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second? Councilmember Jones.
I second that motion.
Any discussion? Councilmember Reesner.
This is for the TMAC wing project.
Okay. Any further discussion? Oh, go ahead, Councilmember.
Thank you, Madam President. I was just making sure, on this, I know that this is supposed to come out of the squirrel fund and such and everything like that. Is this just a payment where we're putting up the money and then that money will come out of that? Or is this being funded completely by council and such?
City Administrator Nick Dudra.
Yes, thank you. So what happened, the Tiffin Community Foundation, which is where the Squirrel Fund, the Tiffin Beautification Fund is located, they approved the funding based on council's request to have those funds available. So they provided the city with a check. What this is doing is moving that funding, accepting the funds from Tiffin Community Foundation and putting them into the right line item so that this work can be paid for and done.
Thank you.
Okay. Any further discussion? Okay, I will ask the clerk to call the roll on the suspension.
Councilmember Reesner.
Yes.
Snee,
Yes.
Thacker,
Yes.
Hayes,
Yes.
Herniman,
Yes.
Kaler,
Yes.
and Jones.
Yes.
The suspension passes with a vote of 7-0. I will now ask the clerk to call the roll on the passage of this ordinance.
Councilmember Reesner.
Yes.
Snee,
Yes.
Thacker,
Yes.
Hayes,
Yes.
Herniman,
Yes.
Kaler,
Yes.
and Jones.
Yes.
This ordinance passes with a vote of 7-0.
Ordinance number 2024-84, introduced by Kevin Reesner, An ordinance amending the 2024 budget ordinance 23-94 to appropriate funds into the park capital budget.
This is the first reading of ordinance 24-84. Councilmember Reesner.
Thank you, Madam President. I move for immediate passage of ordinance 2024-84, suspending City Council's reading rule.
Okay, is there a second? Councilmember Hayes?
I second that motion.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Councilmember Reesner.
This deals with monies for Oakley Park security cameras and other equipment like sound equipment over there.
Okay. Any further discussion? I'll ask the clerk to call the roll on the suspension.
Councilmember Reesner.
Yes.
Snee.
Yes.
Thacker.
Yes.
Hayes.
Yes.
Herniman.
Yes.
Kaler.
Yes.
And Jones.
Yes.
The suspension passes with a vote of 7-0. I'll ask the clerk to call the roll on the passage.
Councilmember Reesner.
Yes.
Snee.
Yes.
Thacker.
Yes.
Hayes.
Yes.
Herniman.
Yes.
Kaler.
Yes.
And Jones.
Yes.
This ordinance passes with a vote of 7-0.
Ordinance number 2024-85. Oh, Madam President, I'm sorry. Did not pull up the ordinance 66 that had been removed from the table. I'll just say that for last. if that's okay.
Sounds good.
Ordinance number 2024-85, introduced by Kevin Reesner, an ordinance amending the 2024 budget ordinance 23-94 to appropriate funds into the WPCC budget.
This is the first reading of ordinance 24-85. Councilmember Reesner.
Thank you, Madam President. I move for immediate passage of ordinance 2024-85, suspending City Council's reading rule.
Okay, there's a motion. Is there a second? Councilmember Kaler.
I second the motion, Madam President.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Councilmember Reesner.
This is for the insurance reimbursement related to the lightning strike at the water pollution control plant and some roof work on the maintenance building.
Okay, any further discussion? I'll ask the clerk to call the roll on the suspension.
Councilmember Reesner.
Yes.
Snee.
Yes.
Thacker.
Yes.
Hayes.
Yes.
Herniman.
Yes.
Kaler.
Yes.
And Jones.
Yes.
The suspension passes with a vote of 7-0. I'll ask the clerk to call the roll on the passage.
Councilmember Reesner.
Yes.
Snee.
Yes.
Thacker.
Yes.
Hayes.
Yes.
Herniman.
Yes.
Kaler.
Yes.
And Jones.
Yes.
This ordinance passes with a vote of 7-0.
And now ordinance number 2024-66, introduced by Cheyenne Thacker, an ordinance responding to petition number 2024-03, vacating the alley off of Front Street running east-west between lot number 285 of Hemmings Resurvey and lot number 409 of the western addition to the city of Tiffin in the 4th Ward of the city of Tiffin, Ohio.
This is the third reading of ordinance 24-66. Councilmember Hayes.
I move for passage of ordinance 2024-66.
Okay, is there a second? Councilmember Reesner?
I'll second, Madam President.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, we will vote. I'll ask the clerk to call the roll on the passage.
Councilmember Reesner.
Yes.
Snee.
Yes.
Thacker.
Yes.
Hayes.
Yes.
Herniman.
Yes.
Kaler.
Yes.
And Jones.
Yes.
Ordinance 24-66 passes with a vote of 7-0.
And that concludes the legislation.
Okay. We are now under other business. First, I'd like to ask the Street Sidewalk Sewers Committee if we would like to send a response if we're requesting a hearing regarding the liquor permit under Danop Limited for 1804 West Market Street. Is anybody requesting a hearing on that?
That's fine.
Councilmember Herniman?
I just don't, is it still, I mean, it looks like it's the Mickey Mart there next to Dunkin' Donuts.
I think that is the request. They're asking for just that side of the building, so not the Dunkin', but the Mickey Mart,
I
yeah.
wasn't sure if it was like a change of ownership or just a change of like, you know.
No, it's a new permit.
Okay.
That's fine by me.
I mean, I wouldn't request a hearing or anything like that. I just didn't know exactly.
Have we had any problems with that place? I haven't heard anything. No?
Yes, Nick Dutra?
I'm under no, I've not been made aware of any issues that the police department's had with anything at this or at their location, no.
Okay, all right.
Okay, so we're not requesting a hearing. Is that what I'm anticipating? Okay, fantastic.
All right.
And would you please respond for us? Thank you. Okay, second part of this, we need to schedule a Street Sidewalk Sewers Committee meeting for petition number 24-04. It's at 254 East Market Street. It's that corner by, kind of by Heidelberg. Okay.
Like Clay Tire.
Yep, yep. Is there a time that would work for this committee for Street Sidewalk Sewers? I'm proposing
Bless you.
Bless you.
next, oh, just kidding, that is a holiday. What about next Tuesday, the 15th? At 5:30?
It's a half a holiday.
It's a half holiday?
I'm just saying Columbus Day, Indigenous, not.
You're saying Tuesday at 5:15?
Tuesday, the 15th at 5:30. Does that work for you all? Mayor?
I'm good.
Okay.
This doesn't work for me, but you don't need me there per se. Is a representative from the owner going to come? Do you know, Nick?
We can ask, we can ask if they can be available.
Yeah, we can send an email. Okay. So I would like to announce a Street Sidewalk Sewers Committee meeting to discuss petition number 2024-04 at 254 East Market Street, Tiffin, and any other business that comes before that committee. Next Tuesday, the 15th at 5:30 PM. Okay. Any other business for this committee? Seeing none, we will adjourn. Thank you so much.
Actually, it wasn't too bad, like an hour.
8:12, that's not too bad.